Bonzi Wells has taken Steve Smith's spot in the starting rotation, and he is playing phenomenally since being inserted into the starting lineup.
Well, I just want to come out here and play hard. You know, coaches give me an opportunity just to use my young legs and just run a little bit, you know, with the starting group, and that's what I'm trying to do, just fill the lanes and make something happen.
Wells had waited patiently and was ready. Over his first 11 games as a starter, he averaged 16.5 points,
young and so
6.5
grown
boards,
back
and
in the day.
3.5 assists per game. It was the least they could do after fining him $50,000 for those comments he made. So for now, Wells was happy. Wells returned to a Blazers team who looked pretty similar to last year, the one main difference being Derek Anderson taking over for Damon Stoudemire as the team's starting point guard. Wells didn't have the best start to the season, but by December he had found his groove.
Anderson
he would
is no
again
point
act as
guard.
Portland's second leading scorer behind Wallace.
Okay.
Today, a mental rep on using a firearm protectively, but not a sword. Hi everyone, welcome to today's Research-Informed Defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I am your host, John Correa. Today's lesson, a very serious one, comes to us from Detroit, Michigan. Check them out. This one begins with an argument. The guy in the hoodie has taken a beef jerky stick and stuck it in his pocket. The guy in the white shirt is the clerk, and he has caught him doing that and is upset and angry with him about it. And you're gonna see our clerk come over and start ruffling through this guy's pockets and take that beef jerky stick out of his pocket and stick it back on the shelf. And then he tells the guy to get out. The guy's like, look, man, just let me pay for it. And he says no and kicks him out of the store. So then the guy comes back in and then leaves again. So the clerk locks the door. Then the guy comes and rattles the cage, rattles the door and is like, oh, I want to come back in. The clerk's like, nah, man, I'm not letting you in here. So then he comes back a second time. And when he comes back a second time and rattles on the door again, you're just going to be able to see the clerk who in the shadow there, or in the reflection there, he's going to grab a gun off the counter and come up. And when it touches the glass, he shoots that guy in the face. And if you go read the news stories, I'm going to watch it one more time. Read the news stories I've linked in the description. He was convicted of murder for this and is now serving 20 to 50 years in prison for what happened on camera here. If you're not watching John's briefs every week, I really think you're missing out every single week.
There's too many of y'all out there, man.
Second channel 23 in just outside of Detroit. So it's not like it's cold there, and this would set my alarm bells off. This is a prelude to an armed robbery, right? So we see this very regularly. We are way post-pandemic. And somebody hiding
was a little too fast with it.
Their identity like this, sorry, words are hard, is absolutely a red flag. And I think that again, up to this point, he's acting reasonably.
He just wanted to
here. Let's talk about the introduction of the firearm, because the
like to shoot someone in the face.
Everything in terms of the seriousness of the conflict. Because what we're going to see happen here is now, as you see this guy walk up, what I want you to pay attention to is we can see what the clerk is doing. This is the first time he walks up, and then the second time he walks up, we're going to be able to see the clerk in the reflection of the glass and see kind of what's going on here. And I think that he gets a little, very unreasonable here in the moment. So we can see our clerk right there on the right-hand side in the reflection on the glass. And it's going to give us an awful lot of understanding. Now, what is he doing there? He looks like he's either stocking shelves or counting something or bent over a counter, and then you're going to see him reach over and he's going to grab something behind from the counter. Now, I don't like guns kept on counters. I don't like them staged behind behind the countertop underneath. I don't like them like that. If you're going to keep a firearm, keep it on your person, because that's the place to have it because of access issues, okay? But clearly it was sitting on top of the counter. So he had thought there could be a threat here and got the gun out and set it on there in order to maybe use it. Recognize that if you're going to use a firearm, you are escalating the conflict if it's not already a deadly force encounter. If that guy is not a threat of death or great bodily injury and you introduce a firearm, that can really escalate the conflict. It is a bad idea tactically, can get you in trouble legally, depending on your jurisdiction and the level of threat that you're facing. So I don't recommend it. Now you're going to see him come up here. And this, just threatening him with the gun, again, is this guy an imminent threat of harm? He's behind glass. Unless he has a gun on the other side of the counter, which he was unarmed, there is no threat here of death or great bodily injury. And there's no threat of physical violence either because he's behind a locked door. So he hasn't kicked the glass in or anything like that. He hasn't even tried to do that stuff. So the clerk is under no threat here. He is using the firearm to intimidate. And friends, that's the definition of aggravated assault, putting somebody else at the fear of death or great bodily injury without justification to do so is aggravated assault, or like a felony level assault. Different states name it differently, but it's always the same thing. So there's no justification to do this. Now, I'm going to say, I want you to pay attention to what happens here, because in my opinion, based on what happened on the video camera, I don't think he actually intended to shoot this guy. I think this actually was a negligent discharge and should have been charged, or at least argued in court, as manslaughter rather than murder. And they may not have gotten that, but this is where a good expert might have helped them, somebody who understands how the video works. Because watch what goes down here. What you're going to see happen is it's when he taps the gun on the glass that the gun goes off. So he actually physically hit the gun into the glass. Now, my guess is that he had his finger on the trigger when he did that.
You can eat a
and
dick
therefore,
for that,
the gun went off. And then
guess.
look at what happens to his hand. He's not using that gun like, yeah, I'm going to intimidate, and bang, I meant for it to go off. As soon as it goes off, it whips around behind him like somebody who is surprised that the gun went off. That is the reaction that we see when the gun went off all the time. So quite frankly, I don't think he intended. Now, second-degree murder, you don't have to have premeditation. But this to me feels and looks, what was caught on video, like a textbook case of actual manslaughter. But the jury didn't see it that way. I don't know what the arguments were in court. Clearly, the prosecutor thought this was murder. If I was the defense attorney, if they'd hired me as an expert, I certainly would have been arguing here that what I think this was manslaughter instead of murder. And, because I don't think this was intentional, and I think the video shows that. But the jury can believe what they want to believe. I don't know what arguments that they made, and so they convicted this man of murder, friends. Second-degree murder, which is not within, with premeditation.
It was one of those ammo dudes. Those deputized guys.
I believe the right to keep and bear arms extends to all people all over the globe, but it comes with a responsibility to handle them appropriately.
John Korea.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. Every day of the year, we post a lesson for all of us to get a mental rep so that our training and practice can be more research-informed. I'm your host, John Korea. Today's video comes to us from Istanbul in Turkey. To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below. Guy at the bottom has just showed up to visit his friend at the top. The guy gets a gun out, checks it, thinks it's unloaded, points it at his friend as a joke, and pulls the trigger. It's loaded, friends. You see that? Again, he's just absolutely in tears. Oh no, what have I done to my friend? And hustles out to try to help him. He was arrested and convicted of this guy's murder. I wasn't able to see what the sentence that was imposed on him was. But again, he just went to go visit his friend, and his friend joking around. You see him chamber the gun. He checked it. Oh, look, there's nothing in the chamber. And in doing so, loaded it and pointed it at his friend, pressed the trigger, and his friend died. We're going to talk about the rules of firearm safety in this one and how.
I had a supposed friend that did that once to me. But it was, a rifle. Pointed at my eye and shot it, like from close range. And the air pretty much fucked my eye up. But that's how you know, like, your friends aren't your friends. Basically.
The failure to use them is what caused this accident. All right, let's hear it in the comments. I know I always get this when I do this kind of stuff, that people want to talk about Cooper's rules.